Hi everybody, this is Paul. I just wanted to quickly just give you a heads up that what you're about to listen to is an old recording back in November of 2024 when Don and I were chatting about the upcoming book. I just wanted to just quickly shine in that Don originally said that the release date is going to be February 4th. That has came and went, and you're now obviously hearing this episode now. But that's just because the original release date didn't go as planned, and to be quite frank, we tried a second release, but there were some errors still, so it's now kind of back into the process of editing. So it will be coming soon. It is an old recording, and right now it is a to be dated, coming soon release. Thank you. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Haunted Vermont podcast. My name is Paul Dolsky, like always, and I'm the ghost with the most, and I'm not trying to say that because of Beetlejuice. But anyway, so first up, we got a special lovely lady that had contacted me to whip up a ritual of some sort of travel education guide. I'm just going to say that like that just because of all the stuff that this lady is going to be including in this upcoming book series called Vacation Can Be Murder, a true crime lover's travel guide of New England. However, there's a twist to this. Not only is it true crime, but she's adding like, haunted attractions. It sounds like restaurants, true crime, ghost tours. Like there's a lot of stuff. So anyway, I'm just gonna shut up now because I think what would be better off is our special guest Don Barclay would be so kind enough to kind of fill us in on what is going on with this book.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm really excited about this series, which is going to be multi-volume, and I started it with New England, including the 6 states of New England, and it includes, it's basically true crime, but because there are so many aspects of true crime, not only are there the summaries of all the major big murders and crimes that I just found interesting, but I also include books you can read to learn more because I can only include a summary of each of the crimes. And I have haunted restaurants and hotels because I believe that when spirits are not at rest, perhaps they were murdered. So I believe that there was a tie-in there. Something nefarious might have happened. And ghost tours, true crime tours, any attractions that have anything to do with crime or punishment. And I also have information on the jails where the criminals are incarcerated, were incarcerated or currently incarcerated. I have the burial sites. And I also have, God forbid, one of these crimes happens to you, victim resources where you can turn for help if you need it.
Wow.
That's a lot of stuff. I should add that because I list each of these categories, and in each category I list everything by town. It's sort of all over the place, but then I have an itinerary section where I bring everything together. So if you're interested in seeing a certain part of, say, Vermont, North Vermont, South Vermont, I brought it all together so that if you were driving through, everything would make sense and you wouldn't have to backtrack or figure out how to put together that itinerary yourself. And I think that's the most important part of the book because it's the most unique aspect of the book.
Yeah. Beat them.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like not only did you have to research this pretty good, but even the planning of just that alone, of how you just described that, wow.
Yeah. It takes me
I guess it's,
days.
yeah. If I had to ask you anything, I guess what it would be in this case. What were some of the difficulties of even creating this book?
I don't know that I had difficulties as much as learning. Well, I have about 500 different bibliography items. I mean, I had to do a lot of research because there are a lot of crimes in each state. And it's not enough to see just one story in a newspaper. I would keep researching because my main goal was to find out where everything occurred. So if you want to go to the exact spot where something happened, I'm telling you where it is. That, having said that, I am including the addresses of businesses and restaurants, hotels, things like that. But if it's a private home, I'm not giving you the exact house number. I'm telling you a block number, like the 0 to 100 block of such and such street, because I don't want people gawking outside specific houses. I mean, yeah, I'm sure somebody could Google that information, but I don't want to be the one giving it to them. I don't want to make things, I don't want to be the problem. And if God forbid, somebody moved into a house without realizing that it was the site of a murder, I don't want to be the one who let them know. So, yeah. So the hardest part sometimes was finding those addresses, and you might have to go through 10 different newspapers to figure out the address. And then there were times when the addresses were not included in any of the papers, and I was able to do some detective work on my own to figure out, because I have some programs that go back addresses of 20, 30 years. And I was able to do some detective work. And in the book, I will mention that the address is suspected, but is not definite, because I did not get the information directly from a newspaper. I explain that.
Can you give us like just a little taste, a piece of Vermont, as in like a little bit of each section of what we can sort of expect?
So I'm going to read this because I just don't have it memorized. And this may not be the way it reads in the book because I'm still going through the editing process, but these are definitely my notes. So why don't we do Barry? Yeah. Okay. So Lucina Corser Broadwell, do you know of her?
Sort of rings a bell.
Okay, well, when she was 29, she was murdered in May 4th, 1919. The mother of three was found clothed only in shoes, stockings, and kid gloves, with the rest of her clothing found under her body or nearby. Her hands were tied behind her back with one of her undergarments, and tied around her neck a shirt waist secured by a man's white handkerchief that presumably strangled her. Detective James R. Wood Jr. determined that Broadwell was murdered at the Buzzell Hotel and moved later to the Garden. An investigation revealed that Broadwell was unfaithful to her husband, Harry. She often visited a house of ill repute run by Mrs. Isabel Parker, where she was having an affair with one of its residents, George R. Long, a pseudonym for George Rath. Long had a long criminal record. Circumstantial evidence tied Long to the murder, and he, along with Parker, were indicted by a grand jury. Long was eventually found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment at Windsor State Prison. Parker pled guilty to conducting cheating parties at her house of ill fame and received a 2 to 4 year jail sentence at the Women's Reformatory in Windsor. She died at the Rutland City Hospital 2.5 years later. So also in Barry, George Miles White, a successful businessman, was also at one time considered America's most notorious bank robber. He masterminded the robbery of the National Bank of Bar on July 6, 1875, and was best known for his theft innovation, the bank robber's mask. He got the idea from the white mask, a precursor to the Ku Klux Klan. Most recently, on August 7, 2015, Jody Herring, a mother addicted to drugs and alcohol, blames state social worker Laura Sobel, as well as a few of her own relatives, for causing her to learn custody of their then 9-year-old daughter. For revenge, Herring shot Sobel outside the state's Department of Children and Families in Bar, and also murdered 2 cousins, sisters Rhonda and Regina Herring, and an aunt, Julie Falzarano, at her Berlin home. She was sentenced on November 17th, 2021 to life without parole. So that's sort of an example of one of the cities and what I had accumulated. And again, it's very hard for me to limit what I write because I'm an all or nothing kind of person.
Right.
So I am sure that I will omit someone's favorite serial killer or their favorite haunted hotel. And I welcome people to write to me and tell me what I left out, because I have a blog, vacationscanbemurder.com, and I'll add that information anytime I receive it. So I like the fact that a blog lets me keep updating the book. I can go to an itinerary and just give you an idea of what an itinerary might be like if you'd like that.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you can share with us, Dawn. Because I know sometimes, yeah, no problem. I just know sometimes with, publishers, and even when I'm talking to authors, sometimes they're only limited or strict to only say certain things. So whatever you can share, feel free.
Yeah, I'm generally allowed to read like 10% of a book or have that reproduced. And this book is 75,000 words, so I'm sure I'm not coming close to 10%. So I'm going to do a true crime tour of Southern Vermont, and I may not read the whole thing, but I'll give you a sense of what it is. Now, in this section, I am only going to speak a little bit about the people, because I have given a much longer description earlier in the book under the summaries, the crime summaries. Mm-hmm. But here is where I'm going to include addresses. So you really have to sort of go back and forth. But I'm trying not to duplicate the information in two places, because the book's long enough as it is. All right, so start your tour in the southwest corner of the state in Manchester County. In Bennington, you can visit the north end of Safford Street, where Mary Mabel Rogers lived with the Perham family along with Morris Knapp. The Bennington Triangle is a small section of woods that's part of a 274-mile-long trail on Glastonbury Mountain, where up to 40 people have gone missing. While in Manchester County, why not stay at the Equinox Golf Hotel and Spa to the north in Manchester Village at 3567 Main Street, rumored to be haunted. Next, head north to Middlebury, where Lynn Schultz was abducted from Middlebury College at 14 Old Chapel Road. That's the college's main address. She was last seen hitchhiking on Route 7 southbound. Further northeast in Waterbury, which would be a side trip, Emmeline Lucy Meeker and her son poisoned her niece near what is now Little River State Park. While there, visit the Old Stagecoach Inn at 18 North Main Street, which is also haunted. So that gives you an idea of how I sort of combine things. And if there's a cemetery nearby, I will include that. But I'm not including the whole long story in this section. I'm giving the exact addresses in this section.
Yeah, that was lovely. That was like very nice. Like, I like that. Just had so funny though that you just had to read about the Connecticut Triangle. I'm sorry. I find it funny because I just, like a couple weeks ago almost, actually 2 weeks. No, sorry. As of when we recorded it would have been a week before. So we're talking October 2024. So anyway, there was an event for Joe Citro, local author, and he was brought up the subject about how he dubbed that name Bennington Triangle on the Vermont Public Radio back in the day, and I'm probably going to butcher the year, but I want to say like 92, maybe 94, but yeah, that's so funny. Like, it never, I don't know, to me it never gets old hearing about the Bennington Triangle stuff, but yeah, it is so bizarre of all the weird disappearances that have happened around that area.
Yeah, and I have a whole paragraph about that too. Everything that's of interest that I mentioned in the itineraries, I have a paragraph about somewhere, either in the crime summaries or under the haunted hotels or whatever. It's all sort of combined in the itinerary section.
So then, technically, because you brought up Bennington, I'm just curious. Did you also maybe this would just say for the fact of we were talking about this off the air, so I guess for the record being on the air is you were mentioning, you talk about grave sites of famous people or victims and the killers and etc. since you're talking Bennington, did you happen to I don't know, mention like oh god, what is the church name now? It's right by the Bennington Battle Monument. It's a church right there that has the grave of Robert Frost.
If it's not related to crime, probably not. Occasionally, I'll put in an author, but it's usually a crime author, like
Gotcha.
Edgar Allan Poe. I probably would include him, but I don't think I have Robert Frost.
That's fine. No, I'm just curious, I guess, because it's right around that landmark per se.
Yeah.
I was just curious. All right. Well, let me see here. So I guess Don, because I mean, like I was saying before, like I don't know how much we can really go into this more, but like, uh, what are some of the formats for this that you were possibly looking into? Like, nowadays people like audiobooks because sometimes they like to listen while they're doing stuff. Kindle, there's all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Paperback, obviously.
Yeah. So this is definitely going to be on, Kindle and ebook. And yet generally my publisher, who's Level Best Books, puts things out on, and it goes wide. So it's not just Kindle, it'll probably be on Barnes and Noble and Kobo and Apple, and possibly bookshop.org, where you can order it'll be a paperback. Whether or not there's going to be an audiobook depends on whether they sell the audiobook rights. I mean, I have a thriller coming out in January because I also write psychological thrillers under DM Bar, and that's the audiobook rights to that were sold. So I know that's going to come out as an audiobook. A lot of my older books are available in audiobook as well. I like that format. Especially like it when I get a chance to choose the narrator. In some of my books, I had completely control over that, and I was really pleased with the narrator. I had one situation where the publisher did not give me the right to, or they didn't even tell me they were doing the audiobook, and when it came out, I couldn't even listen to it because the narrator was wrong. A lot of times you have to pick a narrator who's got the right tone, and some of my fiction is sarcastic, and I like to pick sort of a sarcastic sounding narrator. So anyway, I'm sure that this one will be fine if it comes out in audiobook. I'm sure they'll pick the right person, and I hopefully will have a say in it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. That's funny. I do another podcast called the Everything Horror Podcast, and I was lucky to be able to talk to the Unsolved Mystery Podcast narrator. Oh my God, I'm Steve French. So me and him were talking for an interview, and I basically flat out told him, I was like, you sound like the perfect narrator Unsolved Mysteries needed besides Robert Stack. So it was just, I don't know, something about his voice was just like, it brought back like the old memories of Robert Stack, where I was just like, I could not wait to see Robert Stack to talk about whatever he was going to be talking about. So yeah. I completely get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are just so good at reading. I mean, people ask me if I'll do my own narration, and I will not, because I'm kind of nasal, and I don't read, I think, especially well. I read better than I used to, but I have friends that are terrific at it. I mean, I have friends who are actors and actresses, and they were just made for audiobook narration. I was not.
Well, I mean, you could always maybe do like, what do they call it nowadays? Like the foreword or the introduction that's read by you. I know R.L. Stein does that, at least. But yeah. I mean, that's about as far as you're going to get R.L. Stein. So
Well, I've met him. So I've seen him at Thriller Fest. He's a very nice person. I don't know that I'm going to be doing the intro to my books. I don't think it's necessary. I do enough podcasts. I mean, I'm very ubiquitous on social media because I also do videos for real estate. So I think sometimes you can't spit on the internet without running into my face.
So, okay, so then you just had to bring that up. I'm curious now, when you do the real estate thing, has anybody ever asked you to like, or like, how do I want to phrase this? Like, you know how, you must have seen them where some of these mimis sometimes where like, they'll show up where the realtor state, sale underneath even has like a little, uh, tab, I'm just gonna say for lack of word in here, but it will say like this place is haunted or something. Like, have you ever had to deal with
Oh,
something
no.
like that?
No,
No.
because I don't do stigmatized houses, although I might create a character in an upcoming book that sells stigmatized houses because I think it's very interesting, and a lot of those go at a premium. So I find that whole topic really interesting, and a lot of my fiction involves real estate and involves a fictional real estate company called Rock Canyon Realty, where the agents are very unethical and do very bad things in empty houses. So I write those under a different name for a reason. And yeah, no, my real estate stuff is usually 1 minute long, and it's tips about selling the unsold home, or they might be about tips for buying a home, and they're very short because that's people's attention span.
Yeah, yeah, I'll agree with that. Okay, so I guess real quick, Don, is there anything else that I didn't get a chance to ask you about your upcoming book series here that you would like to share before we move on?
Um, No, I mean, I think we covered that where it will be available and what it'll include. And if people are interested in reading snippets now, if they go to vacationscanbemurder.com, they can find some entries that I've put in. And also, if they go to Facebook and they go to Vacations Can Be Murder, I every day list that day in crime history. So follow me there.
Perfect. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we did like mention that yet. So when is this book sort of scheduled to release?
Early February.
Early February.
Yeah. And
Perfect.
hopefully the pre-order should hopefully be up by January, by early January.
Perfect. Yeah. If the pre-orders are up, I will make sure to have a link down in the description of the episode below for people to just click on and pre-order right away. So
That'd
yeah.
be great. Yeah, and then the second book in the series, which covers New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, will be out in August. Now, the funny part about that is originally I was going to include the whole mid-Atlantic region, which was going to include a few more states, and there was just so much crime between New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania that I had to just limit the book to that. And that book is, I believe, close to 80,000 words. New York alone is 30,000.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I had to leave out a lot of New York. I had to limit it to just the capital region down to Long Island. And so anything that happened in Western New York is going to end up on the blog when I write it. But I was just amazed by how much crime. Yeah, I live in New York, and even I was amazed by how much crime. When you come to Boston, I went to college in Boston, and I wish I had known what I know now, because I would have done a lot more sightseeing. All this stuff that happened where I was at school and I did not know.
Wow. Well, I mean, if there's always time for it after the book release, you can always, I don't know, do book shows or something, and then you can get your sightseeing.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I was in Cape Cod this summer, and I could have driven over to see some of the sites that are mentioned in the book. I've certainly been to Vermont, but I never did this kind of touring. And when I go back, I certainly will. Like now, when I'm in a city like Minneapolis, or I was in Nashville, I take the true crime tours and I
Perfect.
check it out. And they're great because you get a lot of history, even aside from ghost tours or true crime. You really get a lot of sense of the history, which is fun.
Nice. Nice. All right. So yeah. So Vacation Can Be Murdered, a travel guide to the
It's a true crime lover's travel guide to New England.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, so we're expecting that early February 2025,
Yes.
and you just mentioned, and you have mentioned a few times now that you do other writing under a different name, which is
Yep.
true crime. So talk to us a little about that, because obviously you're going everywhere with this. So just tell the listeners
Yeah.
and I, because obviously I don't really know you that well, so I'm barely learning about this. So yeah, so what's your earlier works, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I write psychological suspense, domestic suspense, and romantic suspense as DM Bar. So that's D period M period Bar, which is not all that not all that creative since my name's Dawn M. Barclay, but easy to remember, at least for me. And I just turned in my 12th manuscript between these books and the fiction. I also do editing. I've edited 2 crime anthologies, and I am working on a 3rd. So I do freelance editing as well. But my first book was called Expired Listings, and that was about Rock Canyon Realty, and all the realtors, or the unethical realtors, are being knocked off, and the public kind of thinks it's a public service. And I said that once at a crime convention, and one of the women was a realtor, and she got really angry at me. I said, I'm a realtor and I'm saying it. It's a satire. So the realtors were kind of happy because it meant less competition, and the public thought it was a public service. And the only one who is a little perturbed about it is this woman who is a realtor, and she's kind of a kinky realtor, and she's using those empty houses for not so nice things. And she's getting framed for the murders. So she has to clear her name, and she does it with the help of a very sexy detective who's very vanilla when she's kinky. So we have that little side plot.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I guess, Don, so before you started writing and stuff, like, what were you, I guess, reading that really got you inspired to want to, write yourself?
Oh, I've been reading for such a long time. I've been writing for a very long time too. I used to be I still do some travel writing, and I was a magazine writer and editor for a long time, and I was also a corporate communications writer. So I was doing content and for websites, and I was doing newsletters and sales letters and PR and that kind of work. So I've been writing for a long time.
I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but it sounds like you've just been doing everything. So.
Yeah, I'm really unfocused. There is a method to my madness, because I was in the travel business for a long time. My family had a big agency in Manhattan, and I worked in travel for a long time. And so now I write niche travel books. Before this, I wrote a book about traveling with children with autism that actually won a lot of awards. So I was in travel. I write niche travel books now. I was in real estate. I incorporate real estate and travel writing sometimes into my fiction. So it all sort of comes together. If you took my fiction and you really read them, you would have a kind of an interesting biography of me. Though some of the stuff is true and some of it is not.
Yeah. We got you, Don. We understand now about the realtors, empty houses. Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. But I did include some sort of unethical things that I saw the realtors do. And in my new book, which is coming out in January, called Deadly When Disturbed, I do include some true things that I've seen in real estate. In one case, I had a friend who had breast cancer, and she was a realtor, and she wouldn't tell anybody because she was afraid that other realtors would use that against her. And they would say, oh, you don't want to list with her because she'll be in and out of hospitals, and who knows if she's going to be around. And so that happens in my book too, although with my book, it's kidney failure and dialysis. Wow. But I did incorporate that sort of real life horrible stuff into my book. I mean, Deadly When Disturbed is a really dark book, but I think it's one of the best things I've written. So we'll have to see how that does. But it's sort of an updated version of Single White Female, if you know that movie. It's been compared to All About Eve. It's been compared to The Hand That Rocks the Cradle by early readers. And it's about a con artist who tries to take over someone else's life, and too late she realizes she picked the wrong mark to target. Ooh. So, yeah. Dark.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we just brought up R.L. Stine and stuff like that. Like, I remember growing up with R.L. Stine and, like, some of the old TV shows, like, you know, Are You Afraid of the Dark and Unsolved Mysteries, obviously, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, anything dark is right up my alley. So.
Oh, you'll like this book, then.
It sounds like it. I need to figure out. So, speaking of which, so like if I wanted to get a copy of this book and the book that's coming out that we were talking about for the you know, Vacation Can Be Murder, where can people find it anyway?
I'm sure it'll be on Amazon. I'm sure it'll be on Barnes and Noble. If you're up in Canada, it'll be on Kobo. It'll probably be on Apple. And you know, they probably use Smashwords and Draft2 Digital, which distributes to a lot of different places. So you can always get it. I mean, if you go and Google it, you'll find it. I'm sure and I'm sure I'll have many links on my website.
Yeah. Speaking of website, which one are you talking about? Because I see there's like vacationcanbeburner.com and then your personal one.
And then I have dmbar.com, www.dmbar.com, and bar is with 2 R's. And I usually have links to all my books there and any sort of appearances I'm making or things I'm doing. I also have a newsletter called Bar Sinister that's on Substack, so you can always follow me there.
Perfect. Yeah, Don, I mean, honestly, Don, I can't really even think of like where to go out with this. So, I mean, to wrap it up in a little bow, I guess I'm just gonna say is, it sounds like you have your hands like in the dirt with all this like releases coming out, especially with this travel guide, which sounds like there really was a lot of sweat and tears put into this. Which so out of curiosity, how long have you been even working on the book we were talking about for the Vacation Can Be Murder?
Oh, wow. Probably it takes me about 5 or 6 months to put out a volume. I'm working on the third one now. They're going to probably be around 10. And more if I go internationally, there'll be more. Yeah, this is a good 4 or 5 year project for me. And I would say I finished the first one maybe a year ago. So it takes a while to find a publisher, and then you have to do the edits, and then they want it, you know, several months in advance because they're going to do the preliminary publicity, and there's editing that has to be done. So yeah, people don't realize how glacially slow the publishing industry is, and you could end up turning something in, and 2 years later it appears.
Right. Yeah. You know, like as of just recording for people, like I just attended an event last night, and the guy was talking about how even though this book is out now, but it's been done for like 9 years, but he just wasn't able to find a publisher right away.
Yeah, it can be difficult. I was lucky with this one. I decided not to go with the publisher that had published my autism book, just because I thought that it would get a wider audience with a mystery publisher than it would with just a nonfiction trade publisher that maybe specialized in travel. So that's why I went with Level Best, because they do it's all mystery and suspense. And I know the people that are behind it. I have a lot of friends who publish through them, And so I felt pretty good about it.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping you had the freedom to obviously, choose the publisher too. It wasn't like what the word I usually hear? Not really forced, but like, you know what I mean? Like you weren't really able to decide for yourself like where the book felt good enough to be on or be published with.
Yeah. No, I've known the people behind Level Best for a while, so when I went to them, they knew who I was. I mean, I've been around for a while now. I have leadership positions in some of the big mystery and crime writers groups like Mystery Writers of America and Sisters in Crime. I belong to both New York and New England. And I do a lot of conferences, so I've met a lot of the people and the publishers and the agents and editors, and it's good. I mean, it's smart to join those sort of organizations and get your hands dirty with, or I've done membership, I've done programming. You meet a lot of people and it helps you down the line. Plus, they're really great people. I happen to really love the writing community. I find them very generous and very intelligent, and I just love being a writer. I mean, I can't think of anything that's greater than writers. They were always my heroes growing up, and that I get to identify as one is just an amazing thing to me, and it will always be.
Perfect. All right, Don, I got like maybe 2 more questions for you, and then we can spirit away from this, I guess. The first question that I would love to ask is like, so this is haunted Vermont, etc. So in your take, do you have like a favorite ghost story, and it can be from like your childhood to present day?
Oh, I hate to tell you, I don't.
No. Okay, that's it. That's a wrap. No, I'm joking. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, well, we'll just skip that question then. We'll just put that in the par, the void, and then we'll just wrap it up with so what is your, like, do you have any opinion, thoughts on what the paranormal do you have any opinions or thoughts on what the paranormal is?
Yeah. I believe that my mother passed away 24 years ago, and I believe that she watches over me. And I told this story recently that my husband lost his glasses, and we combed this house maybe 20 times looking for the glasses, and we couldn't find them. And he just didn't get around to getting another pair, which means he couldn't drive. And I was going to have to go into the city at night, and I'm terrified of going into the city at night. And I was the one that was going to have to drive. I mean, I'm not terrified of going into the city. I just don't want to drive in the city at night. And so I said to my mom, could you please help me find the glasses? Because I really don't want to drive. And then I was I sort of went back into his office, and then they were in a place that I had searched many times. And so I told my husband, my mom found your glasses for you. And he doesn't believe in this at all. Oh, and wow. I kind of do, but I just believe that, I don't know that I believe that I'm going to see ghosts that have no connection to me. Mm-hmm. Like I've tried, and maybe it'll happen in the future, but I have yet to. I go to places that are supposedly haunted, and I don't see anything. I did go on the Queen Mary in Long Beach.
Oh wow!
And I did sense that it was haunted, and I did have an experience in Paris at I think it was the Jour Cinq, where I felt like I was sleeping and I was weighed down by something on top of me. And I've read that that's sleep paralysis. But it felt so real that I felt that it was a ghost. But other than that, I've been to, like, locally, we have the 76 house, and they've had all these sightings of ghosts, and I have yet to see, I didn't see anything. I haven't seen anything anywhere. So I'm open to seeing it, but I have not, and I believe that there's a lot out there that we don't know about, but I don't have any strong theories about it.
No, that's fair. And in that case, since you just shared that story, I'll just go back and I'll take that question that I previously had out of the void and say I'll make that story that you just shared about your mother finding the glasses count as the ghost story, because that's a lovely
That is a
story.
ghost story.
It
Yeah.
is. And rest in peace to your mom. And I completely get it. Like, I lost my dad in 2003, so I
I'm
completely get
sorry.
it. Yeah, I'm sorry for you too as well. So,
Thank you.
but yeah, I completely understand about, like, the whole thought of them, and I'm trying to say that, and, like, I guess, would that be considered third person talking? Like, how I do believe that my dad watches over me and my family, just like your mother is watching over you and your husband and probably everybody else that's related and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I would totally take that as a sign from your mother saying, like, here they are, especially when
Yeah,
we come through the place.
I gotta say, when we went to the beach to spread her ashes, and afterward, here's a tip: if you go to the beach to spread ashes, perhaps have your back to the surf, because they went flying back in my face because of the draft. So there's a tip for your listeners. Anyway, we went afterwards to eat at a local restaurant, and we ordered dessert, and they brought peach pie, and none of us had ordered peach pie, but it was her favorite. So I
Huh.
kind of think she was having a little bit of fun with us then too.
Yeah, that totally, I would say, would be another sign. Yeah. And, as of this recording, since we are kind of near the veil of, the thin between, you know, this world and the next, um, do uh, you sometimes sense like your mother is around, like, Halloween and Days of the Dead? Do you kind of get that feeling at all?
Um,
Let
no,
me rephrase that.
no.
I was gonna say, let me rephrase that too. Like, have you ever, like, walked around your place and, I don't know, smelled some sort of perfume or something that your mother used to wear or anything like that?
No,
No.
no, nothing like that. I think she's just really good at finding things for me.
Well, that's her way of saying that she's there to watch over you. Then that's
Yes,
perfect. All
yes.
right. All right, Don. So, I mean, I don't want to take too much of more of your time, but it was such a lovely time chatting with you as much as we could. And um, so, I guess, again, for the listeners, if they wanted to keep up to date with all things, I'll just say Don in this case, because I know you go by two different names, but in this case, my brain is trying to say, like, a lot like Barclay and Bar and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, I guess.
just call me Dawn.
Yeah. So where can people just follow you, Don?
Yeah, you can always find me at dmbar.com. I'm also at, I think, author DM Bar on Facebook. I'm on TikTok as author DM Bar. I'm on Instagram as author DM Bar. I just have not done a lot with the social media with Vacations Can Be Murder yet. I have the website and I have the Facebook page, but I haven't done a lot. I may end up condensing them all under DM Bar because it's just easier for me.
Yeah, it usually is that way, much more easier. That's for sure. That way you don't have to keep remembering, did I post that on this page?
Yeah, I mean, that's a cottage industry in itself.
Yeah, it is. But all right, Don. Once again, thank you so much for joining, and maybe, like, when it's out a little bit, and we can have you jump on board again, and we can kind of maybe take a quick little peek about certain towns, and just to kind of clarify, like, I guess some of the weird categories that you got going on. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'd be happy to come back. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
of course. And for everybody else listening, I know I usually say keep your eyes open because you'll never know if you'll find something spooky, but in this case, I guess the appropriate thing is keep your eyes and ears open because you just never know if you're going to run into some sort of psychotic realtor trying to lure you into an empty house or just like something. So keep your eyes open and just take care of one another.